Hey everybody, welcome to our November Faith Formation. This month we're talking about human rights and responsibilities. So, for human rights, we're talking about things that you need to stay alive. So, food, water, clothing, shelter, the big four. Air, obviously, but that doesn't cost any money. So, and we have a responsibility to help anyone that doesn't have these rights to get them. So we might have food, we might have water, we might have a warm home to go to, we might have plenty of clothes in our closet, but there are a lot of people that don't have access to one or more of those things. So in the Bible, I'm sure we're all familiar with this passage. Jesus said, if you feed someone who is hungry, give drink to someone who is thirsty, visit the sick and the imprisoned, give clothing to the naked, give shelter to the visitor, the stranger, the traveler, the homeless. It's like you're doing it to him, for him. So one of the ways that we show the love of Christ to our fellow man is by showing them compassion and love. But we can't just talk about those things. We can't just say, oh, I'm so sorry that you don't have food, or oh, I'm so sorry that you don't have water. Like, that doesn't really help them. It's a nice sentiment, but it doesn't really help. So we are, as Christians, as Catholics, according to the Bible, we are a community of action. So God didn't call us to just be nice to somebody who is poor, who doesn't have access to these things. He called on us to actually do something about it. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we are trying the best we can in whatever way we are able to help people get food, water, clothing, shelter. Some people have the means and the ability to travel to another country and actually help build things there. Some people have the means to donate large sums of money. In 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, don't really have that, but there are so many other ways that you can get involved. You can donate food or clothing. Go through your closet, see if there's anything in there that you don't like or that doesn't fit you anymore. Donate it to a shelter. Donate it to people who need clothing that can't afford it. If you're part of our Faith Formation program here and you work one of our food drives or clothing drives, that is fulfilling that responsibility. When you get older, if you volunteer your time with something like Habitat for Humanity, helping to build homes for people, or if you volunteer at a soup kitchen or a shelter, all of that is fulfilling that. If you go to a gas station and you see that there's somebody homeless outside and it's a really hot day and you buy them a bottle of water, that's fulfilling that. So it can be kind of difficult, though, for most of us to imagine not having those basic things that we need to live. I'm sure most of us have cell phones, cars, or at least your parents have cars. And it's hard to imagine not having those modern luxuries. But that's what they are, they're luxuries. We don't need a car. We could bike, walk, take the bus. We don't need a phone. We could write letters, we could go visit somebody in person. Those things make our lives easier, but they're not necessary for survival. So, as hard as it is to imagine living without those things, it is even harder to imagine living without the things that we need to survive. I think that most of us probably live in homes that have faucets where we turn them on and clean water just comes right out of them. We probably open the fridge and there's food. We probably can call up a doctor if we're not feeling well and just go, or a dentist. You probably open the door to your closet and have lots of different clothes to wear. Things for warm weather, things for cold weather, things for rain, things for snow. You probably have a home that you go home to every night and a bedroom. But a lot of people don't have one or more of those things. So one example of that, just to kind of get you in the mindset, was a story of a boy named Erzan. So he lives in El Salvador, which is a small country south of us in Central America. And his school did not have any running water in it. They did not even have any bathrooms until he was in fourth grade. They had one outhouse for all the students to use, and the toilet seat was made of concrete and it was cracked and it was wobbly. And kids actually wouldn't go to the bathroom in there because they were afraid that the seat would break and they would fall in. So they had no running water for drinking, washing their hands. They had some like standing water that was kind of muddy and gross to drink, and obviously that wasn't very refreshing or healthy. And so Catholic Relief Services, which is the organization we've been talking about, they came into his village. They helped his school to build a large water tank to hold reserves of fresh, clean water. They built 2 bathrooms, one for boys, one for girls. Those bathrooms were clean, new, covered inside. They had lights, they had running water, and they installed 5 faucets so that the kids could wash their hands. Before this, they couldn't wash their hands after going to the bathroom or eating or just getting dirty or sticky. And there were a lot of germs going around. They got sick pretty often. Once they installed these faucets, the kids weren't getting sick as much. So life was really very different for them in a positive way after they had water. But just imagine that for a minute. Not having a toilet. Having to drink water that was dirty, or else you didn't drink water and you could die. Not being able to wash your hands. Can you imagine just having, like, if you have like something sticky on your hands or something gross or gritty or dirt, and not being able to wash them because there's literally nothing, no water to wash them with. It's something that we probably don't think about every day, but we should. We should remember that we have a lot of those blessings, those little things that we might take for granted on a daily basis. So I want you to take a couple of minutes and take a sheet of paper and just think about ways that your life would be different or more difficult if you didn't have food. Do the same thing for water, do the same thing for shelter, and the same thing for clothing. Think about the different things that you wouldn't be able to do, or the things that you wouldn't be able to do as well. What kind of risks there would be in your life. The kind of things that you would have to do in order to get those things. Like if you didn't have food, you would have to find out where a food pantry was or a soup kitchen was so that you would be able to eat. So just kind of think about that. Put yourself in the shoes of somebody that doesn't have those items. Think about it. Imagine living that life for just a couple of minutes. And practice some empathy for basically feeling how someone else feels of what that might be like. And then for this month's project, homework, I would like you to do 2 things with your family. The first is a family declaration of rights and responsibilities. So these are not going to be human rights in the sense of food and water and shelter and clothing, but these are going to be some of the rights that you feel are important within your family to respect. For example, maybe it's very important in your family that if there's a disagreement or an argument, that nobody uses names, nobody calls names. Maybe the TV is a source of argument and you need some ground rules on a rotating schedule for who gets to decide what's being watched and who gets to control the remote. Maybe you need to have some rules in place about respecting each other's boundaries or privacy, not snooping through people's drawers or diaries or closets or things like that. So I'd like you to just discuss as a family some of the things that you feel are important as far as rights go, and then also responsibilities. Are there certain chores that every person should be responsible for? Should every person promise that they'll pick up after themselves and not leave garbage laying around for someone else to throw out? That's one example. So it might be a good idea, if you can, to write these things down and kind of post it up in a place where it's visible in your home, just to kind of remind everybody what they agreed to. Another really nice project for the month is to look at a newspaper, Buffalo News, USA Today, New York Times. You can look at some articles online and try to find some news articles that have to do with human rights. Some of these articles might be positive, like rights that are being protected, rights that are being celebrated, or they might be negative, rights that are being violated, rights that are not being respected. So try to find some of these articles and just try to discuss them with your friends, your family, and just mull them over. Think about them. Talk about where you feel like human rights stand in the world, in our country, in our local community, and just kind of try to make yourself more aware of what's going on outside of your own home or our own community and the different conditions that people live in every day, so that we can be more empathetic, more understanding of those situations, and more motivated to make sure that we're fulfilling the responsibilities that Jesus gave us to help those that don't have what they need to live.